Hey guys, Christian here. Today is February the 11th, 2015. I want to talk about something today that I know I've dealt with over the years, and I'm sure you have as well, so I want to share this with you. It's kind of an encouraging video for you. Have you ever heard anything from God, whether it be in a dream, a vision, audible voice, answer to prayer, whatever, that you heard this and you believed it because God said it and you have faith? And then you struggle with it, and you maybe in some cases the Bible references that you may have fainted. If you faint, then you won't receive it. Okay, so I want to talk about that, and this is something that I've dealt with over the years in various different ways, and so I want to show you in Scripture that it's normal for everybody to go through. And at one point in time, when I had some dreams. And at first when I had the dreams, I had no understanding of them, and then later I got partial understanding of them, a good part of it. And then I still had missed some details in it that later were revealed to me. And I got frustrated with it, I really did. I was like, what's the point of trying to interpret these dreams and things if you don't have 100% understanding of it, then I'm not going to say anything. That was my conclusion, right? And God showed me in Scripture that that's not the way to go. That, in fact, it's a trap the enemy will set up for you. I call it leaven. Basically, it's the ideology that once you're there, once you are a mature Christian, you will know everything. And until then, you should say nothing. And that's kind of silly. That's to take a page from Martin Luther King. He said that's kind of like saying don't get in the water until you know how to swim. So this is what I want to talk about today. If you have heard from God, I want you to understand that to receive that promise requires two things: faith and perseverance. You'll have to have those two things, and the only way perseverance comes is by the testing of your faith, okay? If you look at Moses, God tells him, okay, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And so Pharaoh goes up, Moses walks up to Pharaoh, says, hey, God said this, we're taking off, and Pharaoh says, no, you're not, and in fact, now I'm going to make their work harder. And so Moses goes back to God, and he's confused. He doesn't understand. He's like, what? You said this was going to happen, and it's not happened at all. So obviously Moses thought that instantaneously this thing was going to happen, but it didn't. If you look at Noah, you see that God says, okay, Noah, I want you to build this ark. You've never heard of rain before. You've never seen it before, but it's going to rain, so build this ark. So he builds this ark. And you don't really see a lot of the walk or the testing of his faith in this, but it is there. And in the end, after he's built this ark, it says in Scripture that he actually goes into the ark with his family, and God seals the door, and it doesn't rain. It actually does not rain until, some translations say the fullness of time, other translations say 7 days later. So you got to think about this, that here he's gone through all this process for all these years building this ark, then he gets his family into the ark, God seals it up, and he's sitting there. And probably about this third day, his wife's saying, it's not raining, hon. You know, it's one of those things. So you have to recognize that this is something that happens again and again and again in Scripture. I know that one of the places that God showed me when I was looking at Scripture was that you look at Peter and Paul and various different other apostles, you'll see that they also dealt with the same situation where they would be shown a dream or a vision or something, and they didn't quite understand what they had seen. In one place, Peter, he's in prison, and an angel comes, I think he smacks him and wakes him up and says, come on, let's go. And the chains fall off of him, and the door opens, and he thinks he's having a vision. He's seeing this thing in the spiritual world, and in fact, he is actually physically going through this in the real world, right? So he misinterpreted what he had seen. You can see the same thing with Samuel. He's minding his business and sleeping beside the ark, and all of a sudden he hears a voice say Samuel, and he gets up and he runs off to go talk to Eli, thinking that Eli had called him when in fact it was God. So the interpretation of things comes later. It's something that you grow in, your ability to do that. So allow yourself room to grow in that area. God's knowledge and or his understanding is infinite, and yours and mine, it is not. So this is something that we have to recognize, that I'm going to have to grow wherever I'm at. I don't care where you're at. You're going to have to grow, and that's what God's constantly doing to you. You'll notice whenever Peter saw the sheet descend 3 times with all manner of creepy crawly beasts and things of that nature on it. He didn't understand it. It says in Scripture he was perplexed of what he had seen. This is normal, and God will work through the situation with you. So accept that, realize that it's not just a matter of believing what God says. You got to both believe it and then persevere. And there may be some trials that come along the way, a testing of the faith according to Scripture, and that is part of it. You can't have the promise without going through the 2 phases of both faith, the test of faith, which brings perseverance, and then you have the receiving of that promise. All right, so I just want to encourage you guys in that.